the Lions go 12-4, I'm sending this like tape in to ESPN.
One for the chance, baby. We don't win in the specific years that I want us to win. Let's go! I was big on them and so was Chandler. Because he's not the better player. Watch them play football.
Oh my God, you watched the highlights? Did you watch Johnny Manziel's highlights when he... Whoa, guys. Look at me. I'm going to go throw the ball.
If Stidham outperforms Newton, Stidham's going to start. That's all you have. How are you going to win the division with that? How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to our weekly NBA playoffs episode of the Nosebleeds podcast. For today, we have a lot to talk about. The conference finals are drawing near and nearer, as we expect. Second round coming to a close. A lot of good series, and we already have a series over, so a lot to talk about this week. And we also have some NBA news for teams that have been eliminated. My name is Nick Antonakis, and I'm joined by the basketball crew. We got Stuart Brooks and Chandler Betts back here for another episode. How you guys doing?
I'm pretty well, man.
All right, so I say we don't waste any time. We just dive right into this. Let's go right into the rapid-fire recap. All right, on this week's edition of the rapid-fire recap, we have a lot of NBA news to talk about, as well as the wrapping up of the Rockets-Thunder series in Game 7, which took place last week right after we filmed the episode. Rockets came away with the win, but the Thunder was definitely a winnable game for them.
Yeah. Who knows? James Harden
was really bad. He was really bad.
Who knows who could come up with a clutch block at the end?
I know, out of all people. That's a complete story arc redemption from getting blocked by Manu Ginobili.
Yeah, I mean, he basically couldn't have played much worse offensively. I think he had, 19? He shot the hell out of the ball. He was like 1 of 9 from 3. But at the end of the day, he got it done, and that's pretty much all that mattered. And he's playing well so far in his other series. So.
All right, then everyone's new favorite player, Lou Dort, got blocked and then couldn't throw the ball off of him. But that ended up not mattering, and they drew up the literal worst play I've ever seen. They gave it to Steven Adams on the three-point line.
Yeah, I don't think that was the play, but I think it was broken, and he just wanted to get the ball in.
I mean, they had another timeout, I believe. They had another.
No, that was less. That was it. They had already used the other one.
Oh, okay. I mean, still, you get that to somebody who can shoot. You don't get it to Steven Adams.
But when there's no seconds left for you to pass it, what do? You're just gonna take the 5 seconds and lose?
Was it a 2-second? What is it? A 2-point game or a 1-point game?
It was a 2-point game.
So then you go for overtime.
Dude, there's no seconds to figure out anything. There was 4 seconds on the count. What are you gonna do? There's nothing. You have to just throw it in at that moment.
Are we discussing the last play right now of the game?
Yeah, you have to have a contingency plan if Chris Paul is gonna get bodied at the top of the arc like he did.
Yeah, that was terrible execution by the Thunder.
Yeah, but I'm not going to blame him for passing it in, but I'm going to blame the Thunder for calling a bad play.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the play wasn't Steven Adams. It was just that he was the only one who was open. I think he was supposed to be there to do a screen, but it just didn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought maybe he could have thrown it at the rim, and then, it bounces off the rim, and then you try to get a layup or something. But
Well, didn't matter because that play – I mean, I guess that play inadvertently led to what we should do as our next thing.
Yeah, Billy Donovan leaving, quote-unquote, leaving the Thunder was
mutually
deemed a mutual decision to have him depart from the Thunder as their coach. But, there's a lot of speculation going around that it was indeed a firing.
Probably was.
It was a firing. Just call it what it is. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, honestly, I think Chris Paul is the coach of that team, let's be honest. I mean, this dude's the head of the Players Association, like a 15-year veteran, super vocal. I'm sure the guys listen to him first, other than Billy Donovan. No offense, I don't think he's like a terrible coach or anything, but he's probably just going to go back to college. And I remember people definitely were not the biggest fan of his before this season. Like, people got super upset about the way he was using Paul George and Westbrook. which, maybe all the blame can't be put on him because we've seen those guys how they perform.
I think you glitched out for me. What about Nick?
Yeah.
I think I can finish that. He's gone now. But so retrospectively, we shouldn't be putting all the blame on Billy Donovan for Paul George and Russell Westbrook's playoff woes together. But I personally think that he did a really good job this year. Whether that just be essentially being an assistant coach to Chris Paul, I mean, it worked. They had a 0.2% chance of making the playoffs, and then they make the 6th seed and probably should have gotten out of the first round against a really lackluster Rockets roster, who, with playoff Westbrook, I guess Game 7 Harden was really bad, but he was really maximizing a lot of the players on his team, and I think that will prove to be a pretty bad decision, considering there are a lot of teams who just fired their coach, and the market isn't that big. I mean, what's his name? Kenny Atkinson is being linked with every team ever, and another thing, this isn't actually news, but this is just a rumor that I heard, that a lot of people really want Budenholzer, the coach of the Bucks. They want him fired. Yeah. Oh, he's back. But yeah, they want Budenholzer out, and I mean, him and Kenny Atkinson, potentially him, are really the only big coaching prospects in this, I guess you can call it a staff free agency. So I don't think this is necessarily the right time, unless this is Sam Presti's way of saying we're blowing it up. This is our team's peak right now. We're trading everything for all the picks that we have from the Clippers, and we're completely retooling. I don't think that would be the best decision, but I think it might be the one that's made.
Yeah, based on this move, I don't think they would want to keep around for another reset of the roster. Basically, what happened last season, it's hard for a coach. Yeah, I don't think the Bucks should fire Budenholzer. That'd be a pretty stupid move.
It'd be bad, yeah.
Maybe he's not the greatest coach of all time because sometimes maybe he didn't make the best decisions in the postseason, but you could do a lot worse than him. And who are you going to hire that's going to do a better job?
Exactly.
At this point in time, there's no one Doc Rivers is not a free agent. You need to just deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah, there are only 5 head coaches that are better than Budenholzer. Probably. You have you have Nugget or not Nuggets. Mavs coach, is that
Rick Carlisle?
Rick Carlisle, yeah. You have probably Rick Carlisle. You have Brad Stevens. You have Nick Nurse. You have Doc Rivers. You have Eric Spoelstra. I think that's probably it.
Mm-hmm.
And it would just be such a knee-jerk decision, and that wouldn't be a good one. But a lot of people want him out. Giannis fought for Jason Kidd to stay. I don't think that he'll want Budenholzer to leave.
Yeah.
Speaking of more coaching moves going on around the league, Steve Nash joins the Nets. His first coaching job in the NBA. And yes, Chandler has the Steve Nash card there, guys. How do you feel about the move? Was it the right move for the Nets to bring in Steve Nash?
It wasn't.
I don't know. But, the track record with somewhat recent head coaches being hired with no other experience who are in the league, isn't great. Jason Kidd, mixed results at best. Derek Fisher, terrible. He didn't even make it through his first season.
Mm-hmm.
So, it doesn't always really work out, especially just former players in general. But, he was definitely he had a very high basketball IQ when he was playing. He seems like he's, good friends or they can at least talks to. He's connected to, modern NBA matters. So I guess it just comes down to how well he knows how to coach. I'm not going to say he doesn't have some of the intangibles, but the experience just isn't there. So we'll see what happens. I think it's kind of my biggest issue with it is that there's no way Steve Nash is going to be chewing out Kyrie or Kevin Durant, but they might need a coach that can do that because these dudes are just going to they have so much, clout at this point in their
cut out. They're so much at this point in their careers. So my big point is that I think that Steve Nash, out of any of the players from the 2000s to 2010s, would be one of the best coaching prospects out of that era because his game, he is obviously one of the highest IQ players we've seen, but his game's also, it evolved as it got on to adapt to the modern NBA. and he really subscribes to the shooting aspect of the game. I mean, everybody does, but like more so than most, in a similar way to how you could look at Steve Kerr from his era about how he understood the value of the three-pointer, and so does Steve Nash. From what I've heard, Steve Nash is really close friends with Kevin Durant. I'm sure that really influenced the hiring. But Nets GM, Stuart, remind me of what's his name? Don't know. Sean Marks, thank you. He has done an excellent job picking up the scraps of what Billy King left him. Having said that, this is a super risky hiring. You go out, you splash money on Kyrie and KD. At the time, probably 2 top 10 players. And then you supplement that with a first-time head coach. That is so risky. We were all talking about how risky it was when the Raptors fired Dwayne Casey to bring in Nick Nurse. But Nick Nurse was the G League Coach of the Year. And you can argue about how much weight that has, but at least he's been a coach before. Steve Nash,
experience.
Yeah, while he was an excellent floor general, it's completely different, as we've seen with Jason Kidd, we've seen with Derek Fisher. It's not the same. And as much as I want to believe that Steve Nash can do it, because I think if anybody's going to be able to do it, it would be him. I mean, you see in a bunch of sports, specifically off the top of my head, you see in soccer when you have like really great captains who end up not being good managers. In theory, they should be really good managers, but they're not. I think this might be the same case, but I want to believe in Steve Nash because I really like Steve Nash, and he's like a humble guy, and I think that if anybody can do it, it's him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the Nets can actually do, not only when they get their star pieces back next year, hopefully when they get them back next year, but also with the new coach at the helm of their team. So, it's going to be interesting to see how they turn out in the East. But, that's it for the rapid fire recap. Now we're going to move into the highlights of the week.
Highlights of the week.
So for this week on the highlights of the week, we have all of the series in the second round to talk about. We'll start off with our hometown team, the Boston Celtics. Since the last time we met, the Celtics were up 2-0 in the series. They actually lost game 3 and 4.
No.
No?
I don't want. I'm mad.
Yeah. No, yeah. Lost game 3 and 4, but then coming back in game 5, it was kind of a statement game in game 5 just to kind of show the Raptors that we're not out of this thing yet. But, games 3 and 4 were a mess. Not specifically game 3, but game 4 was terrible.
Chandler definitely brought up an interesting point about game 1, actually after game 1, not game 2, but after game 1, which was last week, that like the Raptors shooting was so important to their team and to their success, and like they shouldn't be as worried as say we thought about some like the Bucks were, which is true, because the Raptors, if they can just shoot well, they'll play better. And so far that's basically been the story of the series for them and for us, is in games 3 and 4, especially game 4, they shot the ball well and they got baskets and they kept pace with us on our scoring runs by Tatum and Brown and by Kemba. And then when they are able to knock down their shots, they can just stay with us the whole game and then just work us down at the end with Kyle Lowry flailing his butt around and doing stupid stuff, and they beat us. But when they don't shoot well, which has happened 3 times the series, which, I mean, I think it's like so – when they shoot poorly, it's like really bad. Like they just shoot so many threes and they just clank, clank, clank. Like in game 5, they couldn't get anything to fall. So when that happens, the Celtics just take advantage and then get it to the lead. So it's going to come down to the shooting, especially from Toronto in game 6 and 7.
I think that they're probably going to have to go a little bit deeper into their bench. That's something that they haven't really done as much as they have in the past series. And their bench, it's like littered with people who their whole job is to catch the ball and shoot. They're good 3-and-D players. They're essentially just a lot of worse versions of Duncan Robinson. And that fills their entire bench. And when you have Kyle Lowry, and Kyle Lowry's been decent the whole series. He offers things that nobody else on that team does. But when you have, Fred VanVleet, who's shooting terribly, I mean, is it really that bad to put in Matt Thomas or somebody else just like to, go and knock down some shots, get the team rhythm back together.
Yeah, but the defense.
I mean, yeah. I think
Maybe, yeah.
I think that
The
that's
defense,
something that
Boston has we have a lot of ISO creators. I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's always a lot of players who can create off the dribble, though, and I don't think he wants Matt Thomas guarding them.
Yeah. I mean, we look at the way that the series is going. I think that they just need somebody. The Raptors just need somebody. When you're hitting one of those slumps, they haven't recovered from any of those in any of the games yet. That's the sign of a really great team. You can start out terribly and then flip the switch. But they haven't done that, and they need a spark. And I don't know if Fred VanVleet's going to be that spark. It has to be somebody who you wouldn't expect to do that. Kind of like Kelly Olynyk in Game 7 against the Wizards in 2016 when he had 25 points or something out of absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
They need something like that because
they need
right now,
a game like that out.
Yeah. I think that we were a little bit too optimistic about a little bit too pessimistic about the Raptors last episode. We thought, oh yeah, they lost 2 games, they're out. That's it. But to their credit, they should have went down 3-0. But that's all. I don't want to talk about that. And to their credit, they kept in that game, and then Game 4, they were good. Game 4. And you have Kyle Lowry saying they messed up by not going up 3-0.
That was VanVleet, yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah, it was VanVleet.
It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter unless they can really shoot the ball lights out for the next 2 games. But yeah, we'll see in the predictions what we all say.
I'm pretty sure Ibaka.
I don't know. I think
not playing.
Oh, he isn't playing tonight?
Really?
Serge Ibaka might not be playing. Yeah.
Let's go.
I'm not sure. I mean, he was in a walking boot.
Oh yeah.
So
that might be it then.
Maybe he'll.
Yeah, but
I'm not sure. Maybe won't be that effective.
Playoff Gasol.
Yeah, but I think the Celtics have more. I mean, I kind of agree with you. I think we were too low on the Raptors, especially last episode. But I will say that I think that the fault that the Celtics have to blame for losing those 2 games is themselves. Game 4, we just played terribly. Marcus Smart couldn't shoot for his life. Jaylen Brown went 0 for 10, something like that, in the first couple of quarters. It was just an all-around terrible performance by the Celtics in Game 4. Game 3 was just unlucky. The buzzer beater to lose the game, that one was just a stinger. But, in Game 4, we definitely could have won that game because I agree that the Raptors were playing pretty well, but we could have played so much better if we were actually
we only scored
in
93 points. And we were getting good looks. They just couldn't make them.
Yeah. But, like you guys said, I think that if the Celtics don't close it out tonight, then I think they'll close it out in 7. But I wouldn't be surprised if we close it out tonight. But on that note, we're going to move on to the next series that we have to talk about. Another series that's not as far in as the Celtics-Raptors series. We have the Lakers versus Rockets series. A series that began in a way that not a lot of people expected it to begin. The Rockets taking Game 1, looking extremely good in Game 1, Harden especially. But then LeBron and the Lakers coming back in Games 2 and 3 to shut the Rockets down.
I think it's over for the Rockets. It's over for the Rockets.
Basically, I mean, Game 1, wow. I remember, I think it was Reggie Miller saying how it's sometimes after the Game 7 elimination, you come off of that high of winning, and then you get out to a good start, and you just kind of coast that along in Game 1 or the first half of a Game 1. And maybe that's kind of what happened because, I mean, they definitely stayed competitive in Games 2 and 3 last night. But the Lakers are just better, as we can see. Anthony Davis can score, pretty much at will. LeBron's playing well. Most of the role players are at least doing decent enough. And other than that, Houston really only has Harden to do anything other than shoot threes. So, unfortunately, Westbrook played a little better last night, but in Game 2, he literally probably couldn't have played any worse. They were daring him to shoot the 3, and they're going to continue to dare him to shoot the 3 probably for the rest of the series. And it's really unlikely. I feel like it's just the kind of thing where it's Houston's not going to get blown out in any more of the games, but I just don't think they can actually win. Because I just think down the stretch they take Harden out of the game. There's just nothing they can really do to keep up with the Lakers scoring. So that's where I stand right now.
So the big thing that I've noticed, this is something that LeBron's done throughout the latter half of his career. First game in the series, he doesn't always play as well. Then by game 2 or game 3, he starts to figure out your defense. Once he figures out your defense, I mean, that's pretty much a death sentence nowadays, especially for the Rockets.
And they have Anthony Davis.
PJ Tucker is putting in a really valiant effort on Anthony Davis, but Anthony Davis is doing everything. He's scoring, he's rebounding, he's assisting even. He had, I think 6 assists in the last game, game 3. You had Rondo go for 21 and 9.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous. That's what the Lakers are really going to need if they're going to end up winning the Larry O'Brien trophy. They're going to need every night, because you have every night, once they hit their stride, you're going to get 30 and 30. You're going to get 30 from LeBron, 30 from Anthony Davis, something around there. Then they just need somebody else to go for 17. That's really all they need. Then everybody to play good defense. If they can do that, then I think they have a good chance of winning the championship. But they just need somebody to do that. They didn't game 1. LeBron figures them out. LeBron probably yells at everybody, and then they all start playing better, except Danny Green. Danny Green's terrible.
Well, I don't think you can expect much out of Danny Green anymore. I mean, he's not a superstar, but this dude is falling off like nobody I've ever seen.
Yeah. But, Lakers looking extremely good. I kind of felt bad for the Rockets because they did look really good in game 1. But like Chandler said, once LeBron kind of studies and learns your defense, it's kind of that's a wrap for the Rockets. But, maybe they can push this thing to 6 at most, but, it's looking bleak right now. But now we will move on to another series in the West. We have the Clippers and the Nuggets also going into game 4. Clippers are up 2-1. And, Kawhi is back. He's full-blown playoff. Kawhi is here, and he's playing extremely well.
I was pleasantly surprised that the Nuggets evened up the series in game 2.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, there's not much to say. Paul George is actually kind of playing decently in the playoffs. Hit 32 last game, 22 in their loss. Let's see. Did Nick just leave? Nick gone?
No.
Hope not.
Oh, okay.
I'm still here. I'm just
dealing
with an issue.
Am I still here? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I can hear you too.
I was pleasantly surprised that the Nuggets pulled off a win, but I think that will be the anomaly in the series. The Clippers are finally playing really good basketball, and as somebody who predicted the Lakers to win the championship, I'd be a little bit worried if I were them, even though they're also playing pretty well right now. The Clippers are pretty good at the whole basketball thing. Everybody's finally starting to click.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Paul George had an excellent game.
Yeah.
Last night.
Yeah, and Kawhi obviously returning to that form that we all know him for best. Game 2 was kind of a fluke thing for the Clippers, but overall, I think, this series, like the Rockets series, is kind of on its way out. Could possibly end in 5 pretty quickly. So, it's going to be interesting to see in the finals the Lakers and Clippers matchup. I mean, that's the expected matchup right now. But, I would say that out of the Nuggets and the Rockets right now, maybe I would give the edge to the Nuggets just because of, Paul George possibly falling off again. And, the Nuggets kind of have a little bit more momentum right now than the Rockets do. But, still both series are looking like they're going to end in 5.
Yeah. It's going to be Lakers Clippers.
All right.
If it's not,
yeah.
Anthony Silva's going to go out there and play point guard for the Lakers.
Nice. All right. And then finally, we'll move on to one of the biggest upsets we've seen in a while, I would say. Huge upset. Bucks are out. Lose it in 5 games. The Heat win it.
By Giannis.
By Giannis. But, I will say, he had to watch them lose from the sidelines, getting injured in Game 3, and that was kind of, what looked like it was bleak for the Bucks already.
And
They had Middleton to save them Game 4, but once Giannis went down, it was kind of a done deal for the Bucks.
Even if he didn't go down, there's no speculation that I think if they went down, it might have been in 4. That was because they just seemed to be a more cohesive unit when they didn't have Giannis in there. Because Giannis, as much as he's one of the most talented, if not the most talented player in basketball right now, he just can't space the floor. You can leave him open for threes at any given time. It's not 2000. You're not gonna have Shaq get 35, 15, and break eight backboards a game. That's not how the NBA is played anymore. Giannis is gonna need to be able to shoot a 3, or at least shoot an open 3 if he's going to really become. Well, we'll kind of get to that, but if he can be the one guy on the team to win, because he has every single trait that you need, other than a shot. If he gets that shot, then he's basically a 2K demigod at that point.
Mm-hmm.
He's a 3-level scorer, 99 overall, 83-pointer. Ridiculous.
He's a great player, but in the playoffs, when these defenses are specifically built to stop players like him, and the best players in the league, like Anthony Davis and LeBron and stuff, you need to be able to, shoot. Like, he barely shot the ball at all from mid-range or the three-point. Well, he did shoot a lot of threes, but he missed a lot of them.
Yeah.
He can really only drive, and, he can still score points. I'm not saying he's ineffective, but especially down the stretch, it's really hard for them to score when he's their primary option. They start finding other players. Like, it'd be better almost for him to just drive every single time and then try to kick it out. Like, instead of even trying to look to score. Like, play more like a point guard. Like, Eric Bledsoe does that a lot for the Bucks, and it seems to work. I mean, he was playing actually great in Game 4. He had 19 points in the first half. He had made a 3. He was looking good. I don't think they win that game if he doesn't spot them at 19 points. Even though they did look good without him. But if he doesn't play, I don't think they win.
Yeah.
Even in that first half. And maybe if he plays, they could win. But that, it's unfortunate that he's just basically right now still kind of a regular season player. And he needs to add more to his game.
I also want to give a big round of applause to Eric Spoelstra, who pretty much just coached a master class on how to stop a one-man team.
Yeah.
That was very well done. I mean, you have Bam, so I mean, that's a lot easier than if you didn't have Bam to stop him. It was a team effort, and that when people say playoff experience is so important in the playoffs, coaching experience in the playoffs is just as important, if not more important. That was huge.
Yeah.
And Spoelstra really showed why he's one of the best coaches in the NBA. A lot of us kind of forgot about him because, the Heat haven't been excellent in the last pretty much since LeBron left. They haven't been great, but he's been just quietly doing his thing, put together a really good modern NBA team, and they finally got their their pièce de résistance in Bam playing really well.
Yeah,
one more thing about
going back to the point about Giannis.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Stuart.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm behind on your thing. It's okay.
Okay, so Nick.
All right.
Oh my God. Okay.
All right. The big thing that we have to tackle here is Giannis just not stepping up, and I think we've seen this all throughout the playoffs so far. As much as it was subtle in that series against the Magic, the Bucks were not performing like the elite team that we saw them and like what we thought they would be. But
they aren't an elite team.
Exactly, and that came more evident in this series against the Heat. This is one of the biggest upsets, I would say. I think this is the biggest upset of the bubble so far, seeing the Bucks go out like this. I mean, I thought that the Heat had a good chance to win this series in 7, based off, what we saw at the start of the series. But in 5 games, that's pretty sad. And, Giannis is hyped up to be this great player, and I like him a lot. He's one of my favorite players in the NBA who's not on the Celtics. But
he's Greek.
Because he's Greek. But not only that, but he's very good. But, it's disappointing. he's not the player that people needed him to be this playoff season, and it showed, and that's why the Bucks fell. As good, and I will give Middleton credit because he was very good in.
Yeah, what?
I need you to tell me the security number that you just got texted.
He was very good.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, just mute that.
He was very. He was very good, and Middleton was very good in Game 4.
Yeah, now would be a good time to move into Sam's questions.
Yeah, sure. Why don't we move? Yeah, let's move into the questions from the Nosebleeds segment.
Questions from the Nosebleeds.
Yes. Thank you all for submitting questions also.
Thank you everybody for, consistently submitting questions every week. We really appreciate you contributing to the episodes, and we hope you enjoy watching us answer your questions. So we'll dive into Sam's question. We'll start with this one.
We'll tackle them both at once.
We can tackle them both at once. So the two questions are: does Giannis need a Pippen, and does Giannis need to leave the Bucks to win a championship?
So for reference, for those of you who don't know, Sam asked, does Giannis need a Pippen? Because Richard Jefferson, he said
made that comment. Yeah,
he made a comment saying that Giannis needed a Pippen, and then Pippen ruined Richard Jefferson's career by basically saying, "Who are you?" Which is the funniest thing. So Scottie Pippen, because I know he's obviously watching this, thank you for that. But does Giannis need to leave the Bucks to win a championship? I don't think that players need to leave places to win championships. I think teams need to be completely different to win championships. Like, Anthony Davis could have won in New Orleans if LeBron had come to New Orleans. So I understand the question being, do they need to leave the Bucks? And in the way that it's being asked, yes, he definitely needs to leave the Bucks. The way that the franchise is currently built right now, his second option in Chris Middleton, and this is how I'm tying it into the Pippen point, isn't a second option for a champion like Giannis. Giannis can win in the modern NBA. Pippen, he was like top 3, top 4 player in the NBA at the time, which is ridiculous to have Michael Jordan and then Scottie Pippen. But that's not really going to happen. Like, the closest that we have to that right now, I guess, is LeBron and Anthony Davis. But Giannis needs somebody better than Chris Middleton. He's not going to get somebody like Pippen because, Pippen would basically be getting Paul George. And he's not going to get Paul George. But he needs somebody better than Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton is the perfect third option on a championship team. He could play the Ray Allen role really well, and Giannis can be Kevin Garnett. Then you need a Paul Pierce. You need an ISO scorer who's going to be able to put the ball on the floor, like Carmelo style. He basically needs Jason Tatum. I'm just going to put it like that. He needs Jason Tatum. He needs Jimmy Butler. He needs who else does he need? Everyone needs Kawhi Leonard, but he needs something like that, and he doesn't have that, and he needs to leave in order to get that. Something that I saw, a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, he's going to go to the Heat, which would be a great fit. A lot of people are saying, oh, he's going to go to the Mavericks. Or no, damn it. A lot of people are saying he's going to go to the Heat. A lot of people are saying he's going to go to the Warriors. But I really want him to go to the Mavericks. Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, Giannis, all together. First off, that's 3 Euro players, which is also really cool in its own. But
yeah,
that is a ridiculous team. That would be so fun to watch because you have your ISO scorer, you have your third option you have 7'2" Ray Allen, and then you have Giannis. That team would be ridiculously scary. And if anybody can pull that off, other than Pat Riley, well, that's going to prove to be a problem. But if anybody's going to pull it off, it's Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban, he doesn't have a great history in signing big free agents. He signed Chandler Parsons, which was a terrible signing. He made Dirk take a pay cut so he could sign Chandler Parsons. But he assembled a championship-winning team in 2011. I mean, it wasn't really him, but you know what I mean. Like, he had oversight over it. And if he can bring in Giannis, that would be one of the biggest free agent signings maybe ever.
Oh, yeah.
And also, I don't want people to be blaming Giannis for the fact that they lost. Because if he does, he's just going to go to the Warriors. We all know that's going to happen. If everybody's like, oh, yeah, you're terrible. You're terrible. You should have won. Then he could be like, oh, you know what? Well, I'm going to go win and join Curry. Oh, my God, that would be terrible.
That would suck.
It was the Kid Gowie guy that I follow on Instagram. He has a good guy. He actually predicted that before the playoffs that the Heat were going to beat the Bucks in 7. So I don't think I'll reach out to him, be like, that was a good prediction. But
shout outs to him.
Yeah, but he basically said, if Giannis goes to the Warriors, I blame every single one of you fans, because he's not going to leave for the Warriors unless the fans all get on his back. And he's like, well, I'm just going to go win a championship and make my life really easy. But God, that's going to be really bad. But to directly answer your question, yes, he needs to leave the Bucks. He needs somebody at the same caliber as Pippen. Not the same style, because the NBA is very different, but he needs somebody. I mean, he needs Jason Tatum. He needs Jason Tatum. That's what he needs.
Yeah, he needs a star. But I will say this. Oh shoot, I forget what I was going to say. I think, okay. I don't think that it's all to blame Giannis for the Bucks' loss in the playoffs, as much as he didn't perform up to expectations. Like you said, he didn't really have the team around him to kind of bail him out of that situation. But, I think, if the Bucks don't get somebody else, like you said, like a Pippen, not specifically a Pippen, but, somebody up to the caliber of Pippen, like you said, then he's going to have to go somewhere else. Maybe Philadelphia. Maybe that's an option, but the only thing is they don't really have.
You want to add another not shooter into that team?
Yeah, I know. That's what I was gonna. That's
literally
what I was
the worst floor spacing ever. That would be terrible. But
I mean, as much as I would say I wanted him to come to Boston, I doubt that's gonna happen. I don't think we have the cap space
he came to
or
Boston.
the draw to bring him that.
Something that I saw is that you have I don't exactly remember the players. You have a couple players in the Bucks that are going into expiring deals. You have George Hill's one of them. They're not free agents this year. They're free agents next year. You partner them. It's him and then one other player whose name's slipping my mind. And you partner them. You get you throw in the Pacers pick that you have, and you throw in your pick next year or 2 years because you can't trade back-to-back years picks. You do that, and then you have about 23 million around there to get somebody else. That somebody else could be like a Buddy Hield. I think Buddy Hield could be a pretty good fit here. Defense would be questionable, but you already have Giannis. And they're just going to do literally whatever it takes to keep Giannis. They're offering him the Supermax this summer. That's pretty much guaranteed. And if he declines it, says, I want to go into my last year and maybe explore free agency, I would be really worried if I were the Bucks. The Bucks are Giannis. When Giannis leaves, the Bucks, I mean, before Giannis came, before he was any good, this was in like 2012 when they just traded for Monte Ellis pretty much. There were a bunch of rumors that they were going to be relocating to Seattle because everyone was saying Milwaukee wasn't a big enough city to be hosting an NBA franchise that wasn't that good. And Giannis leaves, that team isn't very good. That team's pretty bad. I'd say Chris Middleton as a first option he'd be obviously hyper efficient, but you need somebody getting him the ball, and you need somebody to take the load off of him. You don't get I'm not sure if that team makes the playoffs without Giannis. It might be an 8 seed. I think they're a little bit worse than the Magic. But
maybe like a 9 seed, but they're definitely not going to be a playoff team without Giannis. They're legit carried by Giannis. As good as Middleton is, they just like you said, they're Giannis. That's all. Yeah.
But I hope that answers your question, Sam.
Yeah, thank you, Sam, for the couple of questions there. We did get a message from Stuart saying that he is unable to rejoin. Something happened, I don't know what, but he can't rejoin. So our worst nightmare has come true. Chandler
we're
just
actually
explaining
talking,
basketball
we were
to me.
just talking about this. We got to put the team on our backs. Let's go. Okay, here we
All
go.
right. Our final question is from Ryan, who says, which team in the NBA has the best young core?
Now, this is a really good question. This is a question
Yeah,
that I was
I
actually
really like this
thinking
one.
about. So there are a couple teams that come to mind. Obviously, you have the Suns, and they have there's Devin Booker. I think he's 23 now. Devin Booker. You have DeAndre Ayton. You have Kelly Oubre, and then you also have just like draft capital in the future. You have the Hawks, who a lot of people really liked them coming into this last year. Kind of underperformed, but you have Trae Young, you have John Collins, and you have Cam Reddish, who was a real disappointment. But that team has a really good young core. That's, I guess, who I'm leaning to. But I really got to think about this one, Nick. While I think, what do you have to say?
I'll list off some teams. I mean, maybe the Pelicans, just because they have Zion and Ball. Not that Ball is that young anymore.
I think Lonzo's not. I think that he's approaching bust territory.
Yeah.
I would say,
I still
Brandon
hope.
Ingram, but I wouldn't necessarily consider him a young piece anymore. He's
exactly.
going into his supermax year, and I think that's going to be he's like 25, I want to say.
Yeah, somewhere around
but
there.
Everybody's so young in the NBA nowadays because they come in when they're 18, 19. So, how old is Brandon Ingram? He's 23. Never mind. He is still a young player. So yeah, the Pelicans isn't a bad one because you have Zion, you have Brandon Ingram, and then you have a pick in this year's draft.
Oh yeah.
But
I would say the Suns have to be up there too, just for the way they played in the bubble.
Yeah, that team does have a lot of promise. But let me think, because I'm sure there's one team that's really slipping my mind. A couple years ago you would have said the Timberwolves, but they really messed it up because Andrew Wiggins proved to not be the player that we all thought he was going to be after his rookie year. Karl Anthony Towns the NBA isn't built for a center to be the best player in your team, as we saw with Giannis. In terms of the brightest futures, I might actually go with the Timberwolves just because they also have the first pick.
Yeah,
I think if you count the rosters right now, it's got to be the Grizzlies, it's got to be the Suns, it's got to be the Pelicans, it's got to be the Timberwolves. Those are my four.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Maybe even the Grizzlies, but they only have Ja pretty much.
They also have Brandon Clark, who was third in the Rookie of the Year voting, or fourth. I don't know if Zion was third. Shouldn't have been, but he might have been. No, the Grizzlies do have a really good young team because you also have Jaren Jackson Jr., who is going to be a future All-Star. You have Dylan Brooks, as much as I've bad-mouthed him on this because he was pretty poor in the bubble. He's still a valuable asset to a young, growing team. I'm convincing myself that the Grizzlies have the best young core in the NBA. Ja is ridiculous. If Ja can get a little bit better of a three-pointer, because I'm worried that he's going to be approaching Russell Westbrook territory, that he's ridiculously explosive, but he has a decent jump shot, but it's just not to the standard that you want to see an NBA All-Star be at. You want to see, you obviously can't have Curry on every single player, but you want to see like Chris Paul, a dead-eye mid, or Kemba Walker or Chris Paul, something like that. That's the kind of shooting you want to see. Ja hasn't quite hit that. But again, he has so much time. Ridiculously, he has ridiculous amounts of upside. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Grizzlies because I really like the Grizzlies, and they disappointed me in the bubble, but I still think they have a lot of potential. And missing out on the playoffs, they also have a lottery pick this year. And while this is a pretty weak draft class, you could always trade that for a young asset. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up shipping that pick.
And they're setting up to be really good next year, in my opinion.
The return of grit and grind. Nick doesn't know what that is. The return of grit and grind.
I don't. But whatever. I think, definitely considering I would say the top three for me are the Suns, the Pelicans, and the Grizzlies.
Those
probably
are
the Grizzlies and Suns more towards the top, but
first picks. DeAndre Ayton. Then it was Marvin Bagley, and then
Zion.
Jared Jackson Jr. Those are 3 of the 4 first round picks in 2018. It's interesting.
Oh yeah.
That was a loaded draft class. Also, that was ridiculous. But yeah. That's it.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Ryan. A very good question. Very interesting one. Thank you for asking that. But now we will move into our final segment of the day. We have our predictions.
I'm sad that Stuart's not here for this one. So let's go over last week. So last week we had I'll start with Stuart because he's not here. Stuart went 4-6 in last week's games because we didn't end up predicting the Rockets-Lakers series. So that's why we only have 10 games rather than 13. But yeah, Stuart ended up going 4-6. Nick also went 4-6. And I went 6-4.
No!
Because I got the Nuggets game that nobody else got. Nick, you did get the Heat game in Game 5 that none of us got. But it didn't really matter because you still went 4-6.
And now you're 2 more games ahead of me. Damn it!
So then, now Nick is 33-21 in the playoffs, which isn't bad. That's not bad. But then, you know what? I'm going to say Stuart is next at 37-17, and then I'm also at 37-17. But notice how I did that, so I'm the last name there. I just wanted to do that. But yeah,
comeback.
I'm really gaining after having a pretty poor beginning of the regular season. But that's just in the playoffs. So the total records, I didn't even calculate that. I don't want to do that right now. We'll do that later.
We'll do that at the end.
At the end of each round, we'll do that. But yeah, for the playoffs, Nick is 4 games behind Stuart and I. And it's not.
This week is going to be very important. This week is going to be very important.
Yeah, this week is huge because
this week has a lot of games. After this week, we're going to move into the conference finals. It's only be 14 games.
At that point, we don't even have many games left. I mean, you have a maximum of 14 in the next round, and then 7 in the round after that. And we're probably going to agree on a lot of the games. So
comeback time.
Comeback time. All right, you want to get into some predictions?
Let's go for it.
Let's do it. So we have Celtics-Raptors Game 6 tonight.
Celtics.
I will take the Celtics. Yeah, Celtics in 6.
Yeah, and we'll get Stuart's predictions afterwards, and then we'll update you next episode what his record was throughout the week.
Yes. Then we have the Clippers-Nuggets in Game 4. I'll take the Clippers.
I'll go Clippers as well.
Lakers-Rockets in Game 4. I'll take the Lakers.
I'm going to go Lakers.
And then Celtics in 7, but we already say they won in 6, so that's Celtics. Clippers-Nuggets in Game 5. This would be the closeout game for the Clippers, and I will say they close it out.
Yeah, I will agree with you. Oh, no, we're going to agree on everything.
Maybe. Lakers-Rockets Game 5. This would also be the closeout game, I believe. And I will, again, say they close out, yeah.
Yeah. Great, so we agreed on everything.
Yeah, we agreed on everything. There we go. So Nick's
great way to come back.
He's still going to be 4 games behind no matter what happens this week.
Unless if Stuart picks different ones. Maybe I can move into second or at least closer to Stuart.
It'll be 4 games behind me. That's all that matters.
Damn.
So then, yeah. Clippers. Yeah. So, I mean, you got anything else you want to cover?
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it. All right. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us today. If you haven't already, make sure to follow us on Instagram at nosebleeds__podcast and follow us on TikTok. We made a TikTok. Chris is starting a TikTok for us at Nosebleeds Podcast, where he's been posting a lot of clips and etc. there. So make sure to go check that out. Also, stay tuned for tomorrow. We're going to have our premiere NFL episode or NFL weekly episode.
It has a lot of bad tips.
I just want to you'll see when you get there, but I stand
very entertaining.
by. It was very entertaining. It was a good episode, but
you better not stand by
excited to. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Jared Stidham was such a disappointment, but anyway. So then next week we're gonna have hockey for you back on Monday, football for you on Tuesday, and then basketball on Wednesday, like it's always been. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching. From the Nosebleeds Podcast, my name is Nick Antonakis alongside Chandler Betts. We'll see you next time. Bye.